And conversations about climate change came to ground zero for climate change this week at the Aspen Ideas Climate Conference, Miami Beach. Vice President Kamala Harris was there and took some time for a conversation with our D.C. Bureau Chief, Ben Kennedy.
We're here to talk about climate change. What is your message to South Floridians on clean energy?
Well, first of all, let's see the incredible opportunity in front of us. We are starting a whole new economy around the clean energy. It's a clean energy economy. This is about the creation of jobs, good paying jobs. This is about an investment in our future. It's about an investment in innovation in a way that we are going to create things that the world will take advantage of. So it's exciting for that reason. It's exciting because our administration has been able to put what we calculate to be about $1 trillion that will hit the streets of America around these investments. And so it's not only about job creation, American manufacturing, innovation. It, of course, is about doing what we need around climate adaptation and resilience and clean water and clean air, which is so fundamental for obvious reasons.
On Thursday, tomorrow, President Biden will announce his federal budget proposal.
Yes.
Could you give us a bit of a sneak peek? What impact would the plan have for right here in South Florida?
Well, in South Florida, for example, we know we have a lot of seniors who, from the first days that they started working years ago, have been putting money into Medicare. And we will announce as part of the budget that we're going to extend Medicare by 25 years because we want to make sure that our seniors get the full benefit of their hard work and ensure that they have access to the health care that they need. And it's a fundamental value of ours, which is our very strong belief that access to health care is a right and should not be a privilege of just those who can afford it, especially when it comes to our seniors.
This is President Biden's first budget proposal since Republicans took control of the House.
Yeah.
Can President Biden get bipartisan support on this plan?
I believe we can get bipartisan support. I just look at our track record. For example, the work that we did on the infrastructure law, which is going to be about upgrading the roads and bridges right here in South Florida. That was bipartisan work. The work that we did getting the first piece of smart gun safety law passed in 30 years was bipartisan work. So I remain optimistic that we can bring Democrats and Republicans together to craft a budget that meets the needs of the American people.
Your visit comes one day after the first day of the Florida's legislative session. They're talking about revising the state's abortion bill. The bill would ban abortions after 6 weeks. Your reaction?
I think that it is absolutely abhorrent that politicians would be telling women what to do with their own bodies. And let me say this, it is a foundational principle of our country that we believe in freedom and liberty and the ability of people to make decisions about their own life, the future of their family. And the idea that the government would be making those decisions for the women of America really flies against the values that we hold dear when we talk about freedom. When you want to talk about the vanguard of freedom, well, when you're taking away the freedom to make decisions about your own body, much less the freedom to be able to have access to the ballot box, the freedom to marry the person you love and be open about that, the freedom to learn America's history, I would say that this is not exactly a vanguard of freedom.
I wanted to talk to you about 2024. President Biden says he intends to run. Have you spoken to the president about this, and how close is he to making a final decision?
You will know when he makes it. But I will tell you in all seriousness, the president has said he intends to run. And if he runs, I'll be running with him. And for good reason if he decides to run for re-election. You look at the accomplishments that our administration has made under his leadership, and they are transformative and historic. You haven't seen the kind of progress on, for example, infrastructure. Building back up America's bridges and roads. People have talked about it, administrations have talked about it, and remember that whole thing about Infrastructure Week? It didn't happen, but under President Joe Biden, we now have billions of dollars that are already starting to upgrade America's roads and bridges. We're now in the process of ensuring that all families have access and can afford access to high-speed internet, something that families around South Florida and around the country realized was a real problem in the height of the pandemic if you were trying to get your children to be able to get an education online. Our seniors understand they shouldn't have to go to the public library to have a telemedicine appointment with their doctor. They should be able to have and be able to afford high-speed internet at home so they, in the privacy of their home, can talk to their doctor. These are the kinds of successes we have achieved. And there's still more work to do, and I believe that when we look at the accomplishments of Joe Biden, that history, if not the present moment, will show that he has been a bold leader and that our administration is actually meeting the needs of the American people.
If President Biden is reelected, he'll be 82 years old. What do you tell people who think he's too old?
I say look at the accomplishments and you will see bold leadership. I just met with a group of young leaders here on the climate crisis, and they are talking about how they are going through such emotional and psychological angst around this issue. They're thinking about, could they have children? Can they bring children into the world in a moment where we're looking at these extreme crises around the climate issue? Because of Joe Biden's leadership, looking forward, being bold, we're going to put $1 trillion into this issue in a way that's going to fast forward where we need to be. You look again at bold leadership around something like high-speed internet. You look at bold leadership around what we need to do to create jobs in America, small businesses. We've created more small businesses in the last 2 years than in any 2-year period in the history of our country.
My final question for you, Madam Vice President. You have a little less than 2 years left in your term. What are some of the top 1, 2, 3 things you want to get done in the next 2 years?
Well, one, I want to continue to focus on what we need to do around the climate infrastructure, and that's about the adaptation and resilience. I look at, for example, the Everglades and what we need to do here in South Florida. We're going to be putting approximately $8 million into helping this region do what we need to do to deal with rising sea levels and preserve that beautiful aspect of the natural capacity of this area, the work that we are doing to promote and bring more capital to small businesses. I look at South Florida and the thriving small business community. A lot of the work I've been doing is about increasing access to capital for small businesses. And then, of course, the work that we're doing on a global level, the work that we have done bringing our allies together. I was just in Munich, where we were bringing nations together around saying that America stands with our allies, and we stand in defense of the importance of independence and sovereignty and territorial integrity. This is the work we're doing, and we're going to continue to do it.